Hi, Rainey. How are you?
Hello, Linda. Hello, Scott. I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good. Hanging in there. How are you? Hi, Don. Good to see you.
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you and everyone.
I think we're about to get started, but I'm going to just remind folks, especially those who are local, that we have some very exciting events coming up. Some monks from Sarah J. Monastery, where Geshe Sangpo and Geshe Gelik grew up, and were there since they were 7 or 8 years old. They're going to be coming during the months of February and March, and I think they're on an airplane now on the way on the way to New York City as we speak. And they're going to be doing sand mandalas here, so please see the website. If you just go to kadampa-center.org, on the scrolling banner where the pictures are, you'll see one that says something like Sand Mandalas with Sarah J. Monks. So you can click on that, and that will lead you to lots and lots more information about those. It's a very incredible and rare opportunity that we have to experience these Sand Mandalas, because only a handful of monks in the world apparently are qualified to actually do the sand mandalas. And a mandala basically represents a pure land of a particular Buddha. And in this case, we're going to be doing Medicine Buddha, sand mandala, and also 2 Green Tara. So two of the 3 will be on site here at Kadampa Center. And then the third one will be at a local church in the area. So see the website for more and keep your eye out. There's also going to be a big Losar, which is Tibetan New Year celebration, on actual Losar, which is Saturday, February 10th. So mark your calendars for that as well. It'll be a big day of celebration, and the Tibetan community will be bringing in food, and there'll be a snow line dance and all kinds of fun. So very family friendly, by the way. Actually, all of the Sand Mandala events will be family friendly as well. So mark your calendars, especially for those of you who are local. Unfortunately, we can't bring the Sand Mandalas on Zoom. It's just not going to work. So please come if you're local. All right, I think that's all. I'm going to turn it over to Robbie now.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Welcome, everyone. This is our 3rd class in the Discovering Buddhism module, Taking Refuge in the Three Jewels. And as always, we'll begin with a few prayers. So if you have a copy of the Gold Prayer Book, you can open that to page 34. And we'll read the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer together 3 times in English, and then we'll read the 4 immeasurables together. In the Taking Refuge and Bodhicitta, the first 2 lines are about taking refuge, and they're about the subject of this module, and the second 2 lines are about generating bodhicitta, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all beings, and that's covered in some of the other modules. And then the 4 immeasurables are the 4 immeasurably vast wishes, and they're really in the form of aspirations that all beings be happy and free of suffering. So we'll start with refuge and generating bodhicitta together 3 times. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And now we'll read the four immeasurables, and we'll pause after each line so we can just think for a second about what it really means. So we're not just kind of reading through it in a rote manner. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So in the first one of those, may all sentient beings have happiness. That's the Buddhist definition of love, wishing others to be happy. And then the second one, may all sentient beings be free from suffering. That's compassion, the wish that others not suffer. In the third line, we have a combination of love and compassion, happiness free from suffering. And then in the last one, we're wishing for all beings to have equanimity, which means freedom from this clinging to people we like and pushing away people we don't like, but an equally connected feeling to all beings, not a feeling of indifference or not caring, but it's a valid, based on reality, as described by the Buddha, a valid sense of being connected, interdependent equally with all beings, those we like, those we don't like, and those we don't care about. That's equanimity. So that's what we're hoping for in the four immeasurables. So let's begin with a meditation session. We can set aside all the busyness of the day, everything that's on our plate, everything that's on our to-do list before we lay our heads down tonight. Just set that aside for a few minutes. Check your posture, a nice straight back, head not tilted to one side or the other, but maybe just a couple degrees in front of the vertical. Eyes lightly closed or just very slightly open. Tongue on the hard palate behind our upper teeth. That specifically said we should do that so we don't drool during our meditation. Not considered cool to have drool running out of the corners of our mouth. Mouth lightly closed, not clenched. Shoulders down and a little bit back, so our chest is open. It's said that that actually opens up the energy channels that are in front of our spine, that the winds of the mind ride on, like a rider on a horse. But that's a higher level of meditation than we'll be getting in tonight, to use that as part of our meditation practice. Upper arms away from our torso, right hand on left, thumbs touching, slightly below the level of our navel. If we're sitting on our cushions, our legs are crossed in a position that we find comfortable. If we're sitting in a chair, our feet are flat on the floor or resting on a cushion. So take a moment, scan your body from top to toe, and identify any sources of tension or discomfort and address those now. The point of the posture is not for it to be stiff or uncomfortable, but something that once established is really self-maintaining, so we don't spend our entire meditation session thinking about different aspects of the posture. There's a real feeling of being kind of rooted, of being solidly placed, fixed on your cushion or on your chair, so that you're not going to topple. Even if you fall asleep for a moment, you won't fall to one side or the other. And begin by taking 3 deep breaths from the abdomen, with the stomach expanding on the in-breath and contracting towards our spine on the out-breath. So just do that 3 times nice and slowly. And we begin our meditation, as always, by setting our motivation. And any motivation is fine. You just want a couple minutes of quiet, that's great. You just want to be a little bit calmer so you can deal with the stresses of daily life a little bit better. That's wonderful. But it's said that the most powerful motivation, the one that benefits both ourselves and others the most, is the bodhicitta motivation that we mentioned earlier. That I'm doing these few minutes of meditation and listening and partaking in the discussion tonight, so that I can become enlightened, so that I can benefit all sentient beings. And that seems, it's almost impossible to think that way, or it seems grandiose. Doesn't seem real natural, but if you can even effortfully generate that motivation, it's very powerful. And having set our meditation, or our motivation, we'll begin the actual meditation. As Geshe Geluk discussed yesterday morning, there are 2 basic types of meditation. There's analytic meditation, and then there's concentration meditation. And this is a simple concentration meditation. We place our awareness on the physical sensation of the breath moving in and out through our nostrils. Not describing it, not thinking about it, but directly perceiving that, direct perception, so that mind and object, the tactile sensation of the movement of the breath, become one in a way, non-dualistic, direct perception. So there's nothing in our mind except the perception of the breath. And when something else pops up, as Gussie Gellick said, like popcorn in a microwave, good description of our mind with all these thoughts, we just set that aside and come back to the breath. And we'll do that for about 8 minutes. So just relax into that concentration. And we can end our meditation by doing a brief dedication. We can acknowledge that we've done something a little bit out of the ordinary. It's made a positive imprint on our mind stream. And we think, may that positive energy not be dispersed or lost, but may it ripen in the future in a way that benefits all sentient beings. And you may relax your concentration. Does anybody know what the Tibetan word for meditation is? Gom. And how do you spell that? G-O-M, Gom. It's the Tibetan word for meditation. I know no Tibetan at all, but Tibetan, you'll notice that it's a lot of very short words, kind of harsh 3 or 4 syllable words. And if you look at the prayers, when it's the translation from English to Tibetan, there are a lot more short words in the Tibetan version and fewer but longer words in the English version, like Lam, Rem, Rigpa. So you pick up on, oh, that sounds Tibetan. I don't know what it means, but I know that's not Sanskrit, that's Tibetan. So Gom is meditation. This room is called a Gompa, which just means a meditation hall, but that's what we refer it to. And what's the official Tibetan definition of meditation? Is it sitting on a cushion and spacing out? Anybody know? Chris has been, he's a ringer, yeah. Anybody else want to try? To become familiar with something, okay? And in this concentration meditation, we're becoming familiar with our mind's ability or problems in concentrating, okay? We all have the ability to concentrate, but we may not have developed it. So we're said to becoming familiar with it. Now, just sitting and watching your breath is not enough to get to a state of enlightenment. As they say, you can sit and huff and puff for eons, okay? But unless you develop your qualities of wisdom and compassion, you're not going to become enlightened. But you need to have that ability to concentrate, to develop wisdom and compassion, because our mind is typically very scattered, or for most of us. So that's why we do a lot of concentration meditation initially, and then we move into analytic meditation, where we become familiar with a topic such as compassion. What does that really mean? What does it mean for me? We become familiar with that, and then we bring our ability to concentrate and place it on that and just keep it there. For example, on compassion, in the same way that we keep our mind on the movement of the breath in and out. So it's, in a way, it's training ourselves for bigger things. Any comments or questions about the meditation or the prayers that we did at the beginning? Okay, so refuge in the 3 jewels. What's the definition of refuge? Did anybody write down the definition I gave last week? Shelter, okay, that's one way, okay. Safety, that's another thing, another aspect. Faith is not part of it, yeah, but that's not in the definition of refuge. Okay, what did I say last week? Anybody remember? Yes, giving our lives a direction so that we achieve what we want to achieve. And according to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we all want to be happy, okay? So it's a direction that putting our life in a way towards true happiness, which doesn't necessarily mean temporal pleasures, but true permanent happiness. So refuge is based on, there are 2 aspects, and we talked about those. What were those? What's the first one? Fear or dread, or as I like to water it down for people who don't like those words, informed knowledge about the consequences of our actions. okay, which is based on previous modules that we've had in discovering Buddhism. One is the inevitability of death. Have they done death yet? Have you died yet? Yeah. Okay, so you've done the module on death. That death is inevitable, okay? That's not gloomy or morbid, it's just realistic. Death is inevitable. The inevitability of karma, the reality of karma, that all our actions of body, speech, and mind will have results for us in the future, either in this lifetime or if we accept the idea of future lifetimes, in future lifetimes. So that's what we're afraid of. That's what we dread. That's what we know will happen to us. We'll have some good results of our good karma, but we'll also have some unpleasant results of our negative karma. Okay? So we have that dread, the same dread that keeps us from stepping in front of a speeding car, for example, or putting the radio in the bathtub with us, or things like that. We just know this is not going to end well. And so if we really look at the fact that we are going to die, we have created negative karma, we say, this is not a good situation to be in. So that's the first aspect of going for refuge. The second aspect is faith. By what we mean, not blind faith or unquestioning faith, but a very reasoned faith based in our ability to analyze, based in our native wisdom, based in our experience of life, that we look at possible refuges and see if they're valid, if they're going to do what we're looking for, if that's the direction that we want to go in. So we know we've got some dread, we want to go do something about it, so we go for a refuge. So the next thing to do is to find a valid refuge. And last week we talked about, if we're honest, a lot of our lives we take refuge in what are known as the 8 worldly dharmas, the 8 worldly concerns. Can anybody recite those? Okay. Pleasure and pain.
Can you use the mic? Hang on.
I'll repeat them after.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you,
Pleasure
Robbie.
and pain, it's the first pair. Gain and loss. Praise and blame. Good reputation, bad reputation. Okay, we take refuge in trying to get as much of the first item in each of those 4 pairs, and trying to push away the second item in each pair as much as possible. We think, which is, I'm not saying you shouldn't have pleasure. I'm not saying you shouldn't have gain or a good reputation, but don't expect more from it than it can possibly provide you. If we look at our own experience, if we think deeply about it, getting those does not provide true happiness. It may provide temporal happiness, which is fine, but we want something more. And we know we're inevitably going to experience the second half of each pair, and the more we resist it or push it away, the more painful, the more unhappy we are when we actually experience those. So those are not, according to the Buddha, valid refuges, valid directions to lead us where we want to go. Okay? So the Buddha suggested taking refuge in, what did he say take refuge in? Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, the 3 jewels. So we shouldn't do it just because the Buddha said so. We have to analyze. And we have to think about what are the qualities of these that would make me want to take refuge in them. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Buddha, we're going to refer to the conventional objects of refuge. We'll get into the inner objects of refuge, what they mean when we internalize them later. But we're talking about the conventional objects of refuge. The Buddha being the historical figure who lived 2,500 years ago. He was a human being. He was not a god. He sat under the Bodhi tree, developed his qualities of wisdom, which means seeing reality as it is, and compassion, the wish that others be free of suffering. The Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha, okay? The Buddha is not a god, so he can't remove our sufferings. He can't say, be happy for all eternity, every sentient being, okay? He doesn't have that ability. A Buddha, and there have been multiple Buddhas throughout time, supposedly, but we're talking about the one who lived in our time. Really, all a Buddha can do is teach. By example, by sitting on a cushion and giving teachings, by writing books. That's what a Buddha does. He can teach. He can't force you to accept the teachings. This is where you have to bring your native wisdom. And then the Sangha, lots of definitions of Sangha. And the real definition of Sangha, and when we're talking about the three jewels, is those people who have realized emptiness. Okay, so that's kind of jargony. Emptiness is the ultimate nature of things, okay? So this refers to people that means you're seeing reality without any false projections on it, okay? It means people who have, sometimes they're referred to as Arya beings, A-R-Y-A, or sometimes they're called noble beings. Okay, so these are people who have realized wisdom. They may not be the most compassionate people. As I say, to become enlightened, you have to be smart and nice at the same time. You can't just be a dumb, nice person or a mean, smart person. You have to be smart and nice at the same time. So these people are smart, okay? We don't know how nice they are, but that's the true meaning of Sangha. Then it's also referred to as those who have taken monastic orders. The monks and nuns who wear robes are referred to as the Sangha. And then in a broader sense, we talk about everybody who's on the same path as Sangha. So there are lots of ways it's used. And for the discussions we'll be having, you can think of it in any sense, but the ultimate sense is those people who have realized emptiness. Not that they go around announcing it necessarily, okay? Or saying that they're, oh, I'm a very smart person, I've realized emptiness. Okay, so what are the qualities of these that make them valid objects of refuge? And this is where, as always in Tibetan Buddhism, we get into long lists. And there are 10 qualities of this and 8 qualities of that. And this is just my personal approach, I've never found those lists of qualities particularly helpful because they're quite obscure or seem quite not my experience in and of itself. Like things like the Dharma will remove all obstacles from your life every day in every single way and things like that. They're just not my experience. I'm going to break with tradition and not read through those lists. You can find them in any traditional book. Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand is an excellent place to get very much out all the traditional teachings, and there are copies of that for sale in the bookstore. Let's see. First thing is, they come as a threesome. You can't take refuge in just one of them, okay? That's not that they're incomplete or imperfect on their own, but that's not what we need. We have to you can't go to a refuge ceremony and say, I'm just going to take refuge in the Dharma, but forget about the Buddha and the Sangha. This is one time where you have to take refuge in the whole kit and caboodle. They kind of come as a group and you can't separate them out, okay? But they do have different characteristics, different qualities, different meanings for this. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. The Buddha is referred to the one who's, if we just think about their characteristics, the Buddha is a person who has abandoned all his negative qualities and developed all his good qualities. He's a human being who's done that. That's how we would describe the Buddha. And it's also said that a Buddha sees the two truths simultaneously. So that could be a whole class in itself. What are the two truths? And I'm not at all qualified to discuss that, but it basically means the conventional reality and the ultimate reality, the emptiness of all phenomena. He sees those at the same time, okay? If he's looking at a cushion, he sees something that functions in this world as a cushion that a person can sit on, but he also sees at the same time its lack of permanent inherent existence. He's not even flipping back and between the two, he sees both simultaneously. So those are the characteristics of someone that we would refer to as a Buddha. Chris, you look like you have something to add. Okay. Well, just Chris is saying he doesn't know what that means. Well, certainly not my experience. So just think about it. Yeah, it's like seeing both sides of the coin at the same time. I mean, it's beyond our comprehension. Yeah. Okay, but that's a Buddha. Okay, so those are the main characteristics of a Buddha. Abandon all his negative qualities of anger, greed, attachment, and has developed his good qualities of love, compassion, patience, etc., and sees the two truths simultaneously. Okay, the Dharma is the path, is the true path that leads to those qualities that the Buddha has, okay? It's the path, and it's the path that leads to the cessation of our negative qualities. Okay? And then the Sangha, as I said, are those who have realized emptiness in the ultimate sense. When we really think about going for refuge in the Sangha, it's nice to think of the people here at Kadampa Center as Sangha, but that's not really who we're going for refuge. There certainly are companions on the path, but in refuge, we're really going to those people who have realized emptiness. Okay? So that's those are the main characteristics of these three. So they're different, even though they come as a group. Okay. Then we can talk about them in terms of the influence they have on us. Okay. The Buddha, it said he gives and these are jargony words, the transmitted and the realized Dharma. He gives. The transmission is the teachings that we can hear from qualified teachers or read in books. And the realization is our internal realization. Okay? So he transmits the Dharma in the most effective way possible. The Dharma teaches us about our afflictions and negativities, and the Sangha gives us encouragement on the path. Okay? So those are the way the three jewels influence us. Okay? And I'm going through a lot of things, and you can write them down, but I'm just probably giving you more information than you need, but this is kind of a big topic. then it said we can think about these three in terms of the aspirations that we have in regard to them. And it said, and people may not understand this, and I'm not sure I understand this myself, but it said with the Buddha jewel, we aspire to make offerings. Okay, not because the Buddha needs anything, or it's going to benefit him in any way, but because of the imprint it makes on our mind stream. Okay, to aspire to make offerings to an enlightened being. Okay? The Dharma makes us aspire to put the teachings into practice and to transform our own mind. And the Sangha actually gives us the example to do the actual practice, makes us aspire to actually work with these concepts and develop them in our own mind stream. Okay. And then we can talk about qualities that they have, okay? The Buddha is free from the three poisonous minds. Anybody know what the three poisonous minds are? Attachment, clinging, okay? Ignorance and anger, yeah, okay? Attachment, anger, ignorance. Those are the three poisonous minds. Poisonous in that they are what motivate us to do actions that will cause problems in the future, okay? So the Buddha is free of the three poisonous minds, and he has the capability to lead us to enlightenment. The Dharma has the quality of always producing good results in our mind stream. That's the main quality of the Dharma. And the Sangha has the quality of being true friends worthy of respect. Okay. And it's said with it, we can look at each of these three jewels as being ideal in its own way, or perfect in its own way, as I said. Even though they come as a threesome, each one is perfect. The Buddha is the perfect example of what we will attain. The Dharma is the perfect method to attain enlightenment. And the Sangha are the perfect companions on that path. Okay, so I don't think any of these things I've said are going to be immediately obvious. They may seem a little bit far-fetched or even ridiculous. The Buddha is saying, if you examine each of the three jewels over time and look at them, these are qualities that you will find there. And they're reliable, and they're unchanging, the qualities, okay, every phenomenon is changing, so even those are changing. They're reliable, they will not let you down, and they will produce the results that you desire, okay? As opposed to the 8 worldly dharmas, which may offer temporary results, but not permanent results in the way that the 3 jewels do. Again, this is not something to be taken on faith. It has to be tested against your own experience. You have to sit in meditation. You have to read about this and see what conclusions you come to. Okay? Questions or comments about all that verbiage I've thrown out there? Okay, we
And
got
if
one in the
you're
back.
in the Gampa, just wait for the microphone. If you are
Toss the
online,
mic. Mic toss.
type it in the chat. If you're on Zoom, you can do the little hand raise.
Ravi, I just had a question. So when the Buddha was teaching about the three jewels, was he talking in reference to his own self as the Buddha?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have to assume so, yeah.
But there was probably Buddhas before him that he acknowledged, do you think?
Yeah, he very much was, so I think that's the kind of the answer. He's not referring to himself specifically, but he's saying, if there is a Buddha, if you discover a Buddha, these are the qualities that they'll have. I don't think he ever proclaimed, I am a Buddha. I don't know if he ever referred to himself in those terms. I don't think so. Or if he ever said, I am enlightened. You know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a lot of people think he's enlightened or a Buddha. He just says, I'm a simple monk. And he never tells people to take refuge in me. He doesn't say so. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I can't really answer it, but that's a good question.
And I wonder too, if the Buddha, if he said one of the things that we do to offer aspiration, is that right? Or aspire? I'm not sure what the word was. Did he make offerings to other Buddhas?
I don't know. I don't know that much about that aspect of his life. Yeah.
And I wonder how he felt about people making offerings to him if he
Yeah.
didn't really proclaim himself as a Buddha.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have this wonderful example of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who was the spiritual director of the FPMT and who died last year. And, you know, students from all over the world were giving him stuff. And, you know, they were giving him houses and land and money, all this stuff. And he was basically just a pass-through. You know, it came to him and he came in this hand, went out the other hand. He was just giving it away. One time he even gave away his robe off his back, and he didn't have anything to put on when he left the house. Yeah, so, you know, they accept, you know, people like that, you know, they're on a plane where they have no grasping or clinging, and they just do what they think is the most beneficial, yeah.
And the last question I have for right now is the Sangha. Are there people during Buddha time or since who have proclaimed that they have, they know or have realized emptiness? Is there anybody okay, so you said Sangha were folks that knew emptiness.
Yeah, in the highest level. But you say, are people saying that they've realized that?
Since Buddha's time and forward, has anyone actually said?
Oh, yeah.
There have been
whether they're saying it or not, there are beings who realized emptiness, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, but I'm
Yeah.
asking, has anybody actually said that they have realized
Yeah,
emptiness? Has
I'm
the
not
Dalai
aware
Lama?
of anybody proclaiming that, or if they did, I would be rather distrustful of them, to be honest with you. It's not a toot your horn kind of thing. No, he hasn't. I have never heard him say, "I see emptiness" directly. Yeah, yeah, And you know, basically, you know, the Buddha, the historical Buddha, he was not inventing anything. He was just describing what he saw, and so there were beings before him who had achieved the exact same things. There are people after him. Okay, he was not making. This was not his invention. This is his description of reality. And it's for us to test it and see if it's our reality or not. But that's all he was doing, yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so let's do another meditation. Okay, check your posture. 3 deep breaths from the abdomen. Set your motivation. And now concentration with the mind on the breath. The next couple minutes. And now that our mind is calm and focused and clear, we're just going to do a little bit of analytic meditation in which we place our mind on a series of topics and stay focused on that. So we're going to look at each of the 3 jewels and just think to ourselves, what are its characteristics? So if we take the historical Buddha, the human being who developed his qualities of wisdom and compassion through our knowledge of his life historically, what we've read of his teachings, or what we've heard as has been transmitted down from Buddha to student to us. What are the characteristics that we see there? What are the qualities that could make the Buddha a valid place of refuge? Take what you know about the historical Buddha. Does that lead you in the direction that you want to go? And now the Dharma, the teachings. Think of teachings you receive from the wonderful teachers we've had here at Kadampa Center, or the teachings you've come across in books or on videos. Do those teachings lead you in the direction that you want to go? Do they seem to be reliable? Do they seem to jive with your personal experience and wisdom? Are they a valid place of refuge? And now think of the Sangha, and well, just in the sense of those others who are on the path that you're on. Are they good companions to have? Are they going in the direction that you wish to go? Are they a source of refuge? So this is the type of analysis we need to do. We need to look very closely at the three jewels and test them. It's not a one-time quick decision, but really analyze if this is the refuge that we want. And then eventually we'll come to some conclusion, and we can just sit with that conclusion comfortably. And we can end our meditation with a brief dedication. Thinking like this has made a positive imprint on our mind streams, and may that ripen in the future to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so we have 2 more sessions. I'm changing the order around a little bit from what I announced. Next week, we'll talk about the formal refuge ceremony and what's involved and what it means, and then whether it's something you're interested in. And then the last class, we'll be talking about, so what do you do after you've taken refuge? How do you make that something that you internalize and not just a lot of words? So I have 2 more classes. Homework this week is to continue the readings, sit in meditation for 10 minutes, at least 6 days a week, and reflect on the qualities of the 3 jewels. Okay? And?
There's a quick question, maybe a quick question from a student online.
Okay.
When you talk about the Buddha transmitting the Dharma, is that referring specifically about readings and teachings from members of the Sangha, or does it also include transmission through quieting or focusing the mind with meditation? Is meditation considered one of the transmission vehicles?
Okay, that's a good question. And you're talking really about the 2 types of refuge. The first being the conventional sense, in that you get the teachings, either from a teacher, from a book, from a video, and then inner refuge when you start to realize that inside yourself, using your own wisdom. Yeah, so I think those both qualify. Yeah, good question. Okay, anything else before we go? Okay, thank you everyone.
Robbie.
Take care.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
We'll see you
very
next
much. Good night.
Good night.
I'm glad my cough.
Good night, y'all.